Good morning, everybody. Welcome to my messy shop again. Every time I get it cleaned up, stuff happens. Today's episode, I'm gonna show the rain dance. I think it's kind of important, and just explaining it and going through the motions doesn't mean nothing. You got to kind of do it. I'm also going to give you some previews of upcoming videos I've been talking about on the last episode of some other things I got going on my X. And I had a couple incidents happen. 50,000 miles, I guess stuff happens. And that's all right. Let's go through the oil dance first. I'm hobbling pretty good this morning. I got a pain test tomorrow. I can figure out what's going on with my back. So here's 525. It's missing a few parts. I had the shifter go on a ride I did last weekend. Apparently, I'm not real sure, but I think I may be a little hard on the shifter, harder than I ever realized. I thought I was pretty soft on the shifter, but I don't know that it's a common thing that you lose a shifter. I do know that in the early days, a lot of guys were changing over to Harley-Davidson levers on the shifters because they're a little bit harder. I lost the splines in one, but enough of that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So basically, on your oil dance, you got to make sure the bike's warmed up. So let's warm it up. Well, as you heard, my battery is low, and I've been having a little bit of trouble with it, so it looks like I gotta buy a battery. So while this battery's charging up, we'll go over all the other stuff that I wanted to talk about, just as preview for upcoming episodes, and they're gonna be real soon. I gotta get my stool. All right, as I was pointing out in the beginning, I also lost my shifter, and guy I was riding with is not a mechanic, and he was kind of going into a panic about the whole situation. We were about 45 miles from home. I had this shifter, the same lever, go in Sturgis back in I think it was 2012 is when it went. And I now have about 51,000 miles on my bike, so if I have a shifter go twice in 50,000 miles, it's not a big deal to me. It went in Sturgis, and I was 60 miles from home on that one, and you just jockey shift to get yourself home. It's not that big a deal. And jockey shift, you just reach underneath your left leg down here, and you can shift by doing that with this. It's not a big deal. You can downshift, upshift. You just gotta time your RPMs right, and you'll just be fine. Can't use the clutch because that's the same hand that's doing the shifting, so it's just shifting without the clutch. And that's kind of old school. A lot of the old choppers, and even back in the 30s and 40s, they wouldn't use a clutch. They just they had jockey shifters in, and the choppers just out of tradition would carry that on, and they had them. Some of the jockey shifters even had clutch handles on them, so they could actually clutch. Enough of that. So I want to show you this lever. This is the lever that went bad. This is originally a deadwood. It was painted powder coat in black, and then I shined it up and made it look like chrome, so it looked like the one that came with my bike. And if I can do this right, I can show you the splines are gone. I think you can see that. The splines are gone. And it seems like the material on the factory shift levers is really a lot softer than a lot of the other levers out there, like Harley and stuff, for whatever reasons, and it doesn't matter. They do fit. They cross over the Harleys, and I think it's possibly because of the same benders. My advice to anybody, make sure your shift linkage, all of your shift parts are tight, especially this stuff down here, this lever in my hand, and all of these all have to be tight. As you notice, I got extra holes drilled in these. That was part of that shift lever going to hell, and I had to go to a machine shop at Sturgis to get it home. I did ride 60 miles back to the home base where we were staying. One note you really got to know: this shaft right here is case hardened, and it is very, very, very hard. The machine shop I went to, they weren't mad or nothing, but they were really surprised how hard it was. Then when I got back, I got a machine shop buddy, a friend of mine, and he had to go buy a special bit to drill it so I could get these extra holes put in here. Now, another reason I'm going to Harley is talking to Mike Seastrom at ehparts.net. There aren't any more of these left, unless somebody's hoarding some, and I don't know if they are or not, and it doesn't matter. I have a source of Harley's stuff that I can get and put on there. I got this new lever that's going to take its place. I think it's going to work. It's a little bit longer. The old one's only about that high, but this thing is hefty. I mean, it's solid stuff. We ran a thread cleaner through there to make sure that they were going to work, and the chrome on it is pretty substantial. It had to cut the chrome away from the threads, but you can just tell it in the weight that it's a lot harder material. So I have to put that back together, and that all mounts down here. There's the bolts that take this piece that the shaft runs through, and it mounts down here. My bike is a 99. I think I referenced this before. 99's had a plastic bushing in here, and this one is, I believe, bronze. It might be brass, and they're a lot solider. In the meantime, since mine broke down, the old fix to keep these shifters from rattling, they are known for rattling and at idle, and some guys, it just drives them bonkers. It never has bothered me, and so I never did do the fix that the community came up with, which is a wavy washer that you put in between here and here, here and here, and it'll tighten up everything, binding it this way against this bushing, and it'll prevent it from rattling near as much. And I ordered one from McMaster Car, and so when I put all this back together, that'll be done. I'm not going to put this together until I get rid of this issue in here. What we're going to cover is I got to pull my primary to fix another issue. We'll get to that issue in a second. And in that process, I'm going to give you some of the steps on how to pull your transmission if you want to do it yourself, and then you can get it to a machine shop, or maybe you're a machinist. I've found a couple members of the community that are machinists on the side, or they got equipment, milling machines, or whatever it takes. I'm not a welder by any means. That have done their own transmissions, and I don't even know why I brought that up, but I'll show you the steps in getting the transmission pulled, because we're going to be in here deep. It's pretty simple. I'm also going to show you how to test the stator, which sits here, and down here is the pickup tool, and you'll see that, and I'll go through the process of how to install that. It's really quite basic. All this stuff is pretty self-explanatory, even to, I think, a real, for a learning curve for somebody that's not experienced on wrenching. It's not all that bad. What else we got in there I want to show? We got the stator, pull transmission, and oil pickup tube. My issue is I'm one of the few, I don't know that there's very many guys have done it. My bike, as I have stated in past episodes, will hold 4 quarts easy, even more. And the design that we came up with, or these folks that I came across on the internet that came up with it, it works really good except for one thing. If you throttle real hard, especially on a hill, all the oil that sits down here rushes to the back and sloshes on the back, the primary, and I can't see that obviously, but this is what I'm guessing is going on. And when you do that, my fix gets flooded with oil, and then it pumps it out. And you can see after my ride there, you can see that spot of oil there. It flooded out an ounce or so of oil out of it, and the whole side of my bike had oil on the muffler and everything else. So my intention is, well, let me explain that, what it is. There's a port back here on the back of the inside primary that catches all the gases. See this brass fitting here? That brass fitting normally points straight up and down and then goes into the back of your air cleaner. And being that the bikes are pukers, that would flood your stock or any air filter if you don't move this line. I turned it 90 degrees and then I got a hose running back up through here and back, and it dumps at the back of there. So when it does puke, which is never does, and it's just starting to do it more, and I'll explain why on that in a second, it just dumps out the back instead of in front of the tire or on the brakes or anything else. It just dumps out there, and if you're going through a wind, it'll throw it on one side of the bike or the other. So our fix is we cut out on the inner primary case and open up that port, and then we took a thick-walled aluminum PVC and flattened it, and then you TIG on a fitting so it'll bolt onto that inner case. There's holes right there by it. Bolt onto that case, and then that flattened thick-walled aluminum conduit, it's not PVC, conduit, comes out to here, getting away from the clutch. The clutch throws oil all the time, no matter how deep you've got the oil set, it always is throwing oil down here. When it's back there in that port, it's throwing oil into that port. Even though it's somewhat blocked, it still throws oil in there, and that's one of the reasons that it really pukes hard. So I put that flattened, heavy conduit in here to get it away from the clutch, and it sits about here now, the opening does. And I think that opening's too big for, and I've been running it for at least 40,000 miles. Now my bike has got 50,000 miles on it, and I think it's probably pumping a little bit more compression than it did in the early days. Because it's got miles on it, it's starting to wear. The bike runs great. Don't get me wrong on all that. It runs great. It's just pumping a little more than normal. And part of that is from the alignment of the rings on the pistons. If you remember in a past episode, I talked about the alignment of the rings. I heard rumor about this, and I proved it when I had to pull my rear jug because I found out that my rings were all aligned. The gap was aligned all in a row instead of offset. So I know this front piston, because I've never opened it up, is doing the same thing. And now with miles on it, it's pumping more compression by, which is shoving more gases out through here and through this tube. And when I throttle hard, that much more, and it throws more oil out of it. I'm hoping that all makes sense, but it kind of makes sense in my stupid little head. If this doesn't fix it, what I want to do, then I'm going to pull the front jug and put new gaskets on there because I got a leaky problem from the valve cover in the front. I'll pull the jug and I'll align those rings properly and go from there. My fix for this crushed thick wall conduit is I'm going to pinch it completely off, and then on the front side of it, it'd be this side, I'm going to drill a small hole enough to let the gases come through, and I'm hoping that the oil will quit filling in through there, and that'll get me a lot more miles out of it before I have to do anything major to this motor. This motor's not falling apart. They're just quirky. It's just one of those deals. This stuff I'm talking about is not common. Just remember that conduit. I don't know of I have yet to run across anybody in person that has done this thick-walled conduit trick, and it worked many, many years. Worked very well. I was just been tickled with it because I don't have to measure how much oil I put in my bike. I just throw 4 quarts in it and change my oil, and I rock and roll and head away. So my battery charger is reading 85% charged. I turned the fan off. Let's see if we can warm this thing up and do the oil dance. Gonna get away from the bike a little bit, being it's noisy. Do not do your oil dance. Don't do your oil dance with oil cold. You'll get a false reading. So I'm gonna let the bike warm up, and you can hear it running. It's running a little higher than normal. Normal's right around 1,000 RPM when it's warmed up. And right now it's running, I think, around 1,200, maybe higher. There you see it. That's the warm-up mode. And it's showing 1,300. It's going to take it 30 seconds or so to get warmed up. I turned the oil cooler fan off. Oh, now it sounds like it's coming down a little bit. Warming up a little. Yeah, she's almost to 1,000. I'm going to go ahead and start with the oil dance here in a second. I'm not sure what you can hear and can't hear, so I'll explain the next step. The next step is I got to get on the bike, set it up right. I think, and I don't know this, but I think you could probably do this on the kickstand. But the oil dance rules have always been to set the bike upright. The oil dance has always been to set the bike upright and do the revs. And the revs are running 30 seconds at 25 to 3,000 RPM. And that's what we're going to do here when I get back on it, in case you can't hear me. She is warmed up, ready to go. So here we go. We're going to go about 30 seconds at around 3,000 RPM for 30 seconds. It's roughly 30 seconds, probably a little bit longer, no big deal. I really recommend you do at least 30 seconds. Put her back on the kickstand and pull your dipstick. Oop, I gotta get a rag. It's fun videoing, you never got enough hands. Ignore the music. I'm not trying to broadcast music. No, I ain't got permission for music yet. All the oil now is in that chamber where the dipstick goes. And you'll have your true reading. If you got a lot of water in your oil, you know, moisture from sitting around all winter, and it's going to be pretty foamy and you'll probably get a false reading also. And it's got plenty. I got oil splashed up to here, but it's pretty thick down here. I got all the way to the top, and like I said, I run a full 4 quarts. Your oil, if you don't have this tube thing, this heavy conduit thing I got going by, anywhere in these hash marks, you're probably going to be all right. Get below, you're going to be low. Going to be high, it's not that big a deal. Remember, they puke. If you overfill your bike, it's going to puke it till it's happy. That's a thing you need to understand. My bike normally does not normally do that. So this is just a quickie little video. I think I covered everything on the oil dance. Warm your bike up. Once it gets warmed up, the RPMs are down around 1,000 or less. Get on the bike, set her upright, and rev it to 3,000 RPMs. You can probably get away with 2,500 RPM if you don't like the noise, especially if you got slash cuts or something short shotguns that are really loud. And then put it back in stand and pull it up. It's really a simple process. Not that big a deal. Some people make a big deal out of why can't we do this, why can't we do that, and well, it's just the bike, it's just the way it works. And the owner's manual doesn't talk anything about an oil dance. They just say check the dipstick, and that does not work. That's not a good oil reading at all. If you got it on the kickstand, it may show low, and you'll be throwing a quart in there, and then it's really gonna puke. If you want to check your oil, you got to do the oil dance. That's all there is to it. Warm it up, 3,000 RPM, 30 second, upright, put her back down, check your dipstick. Takes about 5 minutes if that. You can walk around. If you're warming your bike up for a ride, that's perfect time to warm it up. All right, everybody. ehparts.net. Mike Seastrom, he's got all the parts you need to do stuff. You got any questions, don't be afraid to email me. It's on my YouTube channel. You got any ideas or stuff you want to know about? Maybe I can video it. If not, I'll be more than happy to help you with any other issues. I don't know everything, but if I don't, I know where to look and who to talk to and who to ask. I can recommend them to you, or I can get the answer myself. Have a good day, everyone.